Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with another Warhammer Fantasy Battles Tactics video. Today I'm going to do the 5th Law of Magic, eventually, and I'm doing the Law of Life. The Law of Life is, in my opinion, one of the best laws in the book, because for me, as a flimsy elf player, it has a lot of advantages that help to cover some of the weaknesses that elven armies often have. So the Law of Life is said as unleashing the power of the natural world. It is classed as a primarily defensive law with an array of spells that heal your troops and augment their resilience. So as that suggests, it is mainly about making your troops more survivable. Sometimes there are obviously options where you can heal them as well. This is reflected in the law attribute, and that is called Life Bloom. Life leaves little excuse to propagate, and even the casting of the simplest spells can bring forth the full bloom of renewal. When a spell from the Law of Life is cast successfully, as in not dispelled, the wizard or another friendly model within 12 inches instantly recovers a single wound lost earlier in the battle. So this obviously has a main application for wizards and for your characters who are in 12 inches, so it does say model. So if you've got multi-wound models around you, for example, monstrous cavalry, like Blood Crushers of Khorne, I know Zen Shells have access to the Law of Life, you can heal them as well. It doesn't specify it has to be a character, which is good. So in multi-wound armies like Ogres, that's pretty terrifying, although it is only one model. The signature spell is Earthblood. It is an 8+ casting value, and it is an augment cast upon the wizard and his unit if he has one. This gives them regeneration 5+ until the start of the caster's next magic phase. So this basically means that I want to say it's like Feel No Pain. I think you take it immediately. I haven't played in a while, so I'm going to have a quick look. Too slow, and then we get regen. Here we go. It's after failing an armor save instead of taking a ward save. So you don't go armor, ward, regen. You go armor, ward, or regen. Usually you won't have a ward, but it's worth bearing in mind if you've got a wizard with a 4+ ward save, take the ward save, but you can't take the regen if you do that. The rest of you guys will just take your 5+ regen. Yeah, it says here it's on a 4+, but obviously this one is on a 5+. You can upgrade it to a 4+, but that's not through boosting. You don't get it against flaming attacks, and you lose regeneration if you're hit by flaming attacks for that phase. And that's it. You cannot boost Earthblood. It's the whole way Law of Life works in boosting spells is done slightly differently, which is one of the actual spells is the booster. So I'll come on to that. It's spell 3. Spell 1 is Awakening of the Wood. It's a 6+ casting value, direct damage, 18-inch range, and it causes D6 strength 4 hits. If the target is even partially in a forest, the number of hits is increased to 2d6. So this is obviously better on foresty boards or cast on units that happen to be in woodland of any sort. So anything pretty much with a tree you count as a forest. And if they're in there, you take 2d6 strength 4 instead of d6, making it at least as powerful as Fireball, which is good. Spell 2 is Flesh to Stone. This is an 8+ casting value, same as Earthblood, and it's an augment with a range of 24. The target unit has +2 toughness until the start of your next magic phase. Seriously, +2 toughness. If you're playing a regular army, by regular I mean anything that's strength 3, toughness 3, you're now toughness 5, which means that most things are wounding you on 6s. If you're playing something where the unit is toughness 4, you're now toughness 6. Seriously, that's really, really hard to wound. You can even cast this on some big monsters, make them things like toughness 8 or toughness 9, and that's insane. I don't know if the wound chart is quite as kind as in 40k, because strength 4 can't wound toughness 8 in 40k. So I don't know quite where the line is drawn, and I've lost my checking chart thingy. No, I haven't. To wound chart. Oh, you're always wounded on 6s. Okay, never mind. So there's no way you can't not be wounded, which is unfortunate, but it's useful nonetheless to have higher toughness so as you're being wounded on 6s. Spell 3, this is the spell I alluded to earlier. It's called Throne of Vines. It's an 8+ casting value, and it is absolutely useless for a level 1. Utterly useless. It remains in play and it's an augment cast upon the wizard. While the spell is in effect, every time the wizard miscasts, roll a dice. On a 2+, the miscast is ignored. So this is only useful if you have actually got other spells to throw at it. Because while Throne of Vines is in effect, you won't be bothering to cast it again because it remains in play. So level 1s get rid of this spell. The other reason, but it's also incredibly useful when you're going for big spells because you can ignore the miscast and go for it. Yes, this spell is only an 8+ casting value, so will likely be dispelled later if it's not dispelled at the time. But while you've got it, it's useful, especially if you can do it in your first magic phase and then cause all hell in that magic phase. Furthermore, the wizard's casting of the following spells have the additional benefits. It does not change the effects of spells that have already been cast. So the casting values don't change for these the spells, but they get boosted by having Throne of Vines in effect. So with Earthblood, the regeneration becomes 4+ instead of 5+. Obviously, if you're already given a unit regen before you've cast this, then it's still 5+. It doesn't upgrade while Throne of Vines in effect. You have to cast it while it's in effect to get the boost. But that's a really big boost. Awakening of the Wood hits at strength 6 instead of strength 4. This is the only time I consider this spell worth using. A 6+ casting value causing D6 strength 6 hits is pretty damn good. I mean, D6 strength 6 hits is a 10+ in the Law of Heavens. And 2d6 strength 6 hits, if you're in a wood, ow, on a 6+. Flesh to Stone instead adds +4 toughness. Wow. This means that even your basic troops are toughness 7. 7. That means that even the strongest of monsters are probably only wounding them on 4s, or even 5s, which is brilliant. The other two relate to two of the later spells, so I'm going to sort of cover those as I go. Shield of Thorns is spell number 4. This has a 9+ cast. It remains in play, and it has a 24-inch range. At the end of each magic phase, any enemy unit in base contact with a target suffers 2d6 strength 3 hits. This is a nice combat tipper. It doesn't affect combat resolution because it's in the magic phase, but it's very useful because it will thin numbers, particularly the fact that average 2d6 roll is 7, wounding most things on 4s. Yeah, I mean, that's killing 2 or 3 guys from your average unit, which is very nice. And if you have Shield of Thorns on, or if you activate Shield of Thorns while Throne of Vines is on, it's strength 4, meaning it's wounding on 3s, and that's 3 or 4 wounds becomes 5 or 6 wounds, which is very useful, meaning you're probably killing at least 1 more, possibly 2 more guys. And I have nothing against that at all. And it's still a 9+. So it's good 9+, but it will still get dispelled pretty quickly, I expect. Spell 5 is Regrowth. This is a lovely spell. It's a little bit convoluted, but it's a great spell. It's a 12+ cast. It's an augment with a 24-inch range. The target unit instantly recovers D3+1 wounds worth of models slain in the battle. Cavalry counters 2. So I assume that means that you have to spend 2 wounds to regenerate cavalry, as in 1 to resurrect the rider, 1 to resurrect the steed, but that could be wrong. I'm not sure, it doesn't specify exactly. The wounds in the unit are regained in a strict order. First, the champion is resurrected. So if your champion was killed in a challenge, he's the first one back. And then the musician. Standard bearers you might think would be after the champion, but they are never resurrected. If the bearer is slain, the banner is gone. The banner's been overrun, and I think you score victory points for capturing banners in some cases. So you never get your standard bearer back, unfortunately. And displacing rank and file models as required. The rank and file with multiple wounds, including command figures, are healed to starting value. So if you're casting this on ogres, and you get 4 wounds, so you bring the champion back, and then you bring back the musician, you then have to top up the champion before you can do anything else. So on a 3 wound model, so you bring up champion, musician, then you top the champion up to 3 wounds. That's how that would work. Finally, any remaining wounds resurrect rank and file. So once you've done multiple wound models, you then go on to do rank and file, and they're added to the front rank until it reaches at least 5 or possibly 3 in the case of monstrous units. And additional models can then be added to either the front or the back rank. It's your call. If a unit already has more than one rank, models can only be added to the rear rank. So let's say it's a 20 manning, 4 ranks of 5, you've lost, say, 7, and then you resurrect 2, they go straight in the back rank unless it's the command. Regrowth cannot take a unit beyond its starting size and cannot be used to heal characters or their mounts. So you can't just cast it on a unit at full strength to get extra models. Leave that to vampire counts. And you cannot heal characters with it. The only way you can heal a character is through the lore attribute. The wizard can choose to extend the range to 48 if you do the casting value goes up to 15 plus. You can boost this to get extra range, but it still gets a bonus from Throne of Vines. So if Throne of Vines is on when you cast Regrowth, it restores D6 plus 1 instead of D3 plus 1, meaning on average you get an extra, well, twice as many models back pretty much every time, which is very handy, I have to say. Very, very handy. And if you really get lucky, you could get 7 wounds back. That's most of a unit. I don't think you can just basically resurrect an entirely dead unit, because you have to actually target the unit first. So, as much as it'd be nice to raise your suddenly wiped out cavalry back from the grave, no, sadly not. Spell 6 is the Dwellers Below. This is the only one not affected by Throne of Vines. This one works completely autonomously like a regular spell. It's an 18 plus casting value, so it's a very high value to cast, and this is why I still recommend having Throne of Vines on if you're going for this, just because then you've got the miscast dodge. I'm going to call it a dodge, or nullification or whatever. It's a direct damage, 12-inch range. Every model in the target unit must take a strength test or die no saves of any kind. Ow. That means that on average units, you're killing half a unit. On average. That's brilliant. Of course, it's only 12-inch range, so you have to save this until they're pretty close. But you can boost it to 24-inch, and if you do, the casting value goes up to 21. So the spell obviously gets only extra power dice, I would say, to double the range. So I'd recommend you go for the boost if you need to, but don't unless you have to. So that's the Lore of Life. I'll go through it level by level. If you're a level 1, look for something like Earthblood or Flesh to Stone. But if you get Throne of Vines, swap it immediately because it's useless to you. And I would say the same about Dwellers Below. It's a little too high to risk a level 1 on. Level 2, Throne of Vines is okay. You can keep it, but you're only going to get 1 boost out of it. I would still probably swap it for Earthblood. Level 3, this is when Throne of Vines becomes very useful. Level 3 and 4, because you're boosting a variety of spells, which is good. And at this point, a Dwellers Below becomes a lot more viable. Signature spell is good. I really like Earthblood. It does only attach to your unit, though, your wizard's unit, which is okay, but you can't give it to everybody. Awakening of the Wood needs boosting to be worth it. Needs the Throne of Vines to be on to be worth it, in my opinion. Flesh to Stone, never get rid of it. Brilliant spell. Throne of Vines, I've mentioned, becomes better as you go up the levels. Level 3 is when it's a sure in. Level 2 depends on what else you get. Shield of Thorns, nice equalizer, but if you don't expect him to get into melee that much, then don't bother. Regrowth, again, probably from level 2 onwards, this is a good spell to have because you'll be able to get it off. And I would still recommend having Throne of Vines with it because it's twice as many models back. Dwellers Below, again, this is like a level 3 plus, really, I would say, just for a safetyness. And if you've got Throne of Vines on, all the better because you can negate the miscast. And the Lore attribute, I've got nothing to complain about. I love the Lore of Life because it allows me to heal my models as I go, which is very useful if my glass cannon characters get caught in a challenge. I can resurrect dead guys, considering how expensive my guys are, that's very useful. And I can make them much more survivable with things like Flesh to Stone. I have no complaints there. And even if you have to cast it on the wizard, give him regen 4 plus and toughness 7, you can fight in a challenge with that, I suppose. Well-ish. So, yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. The next video in this series will be the Lore of Heavens. I apologise that this video, well, this series has had to take a break, but I had my fantasy rulebook out on loan to allow Kieran to catch up on the system because he's been out of the game for a while. We played 1 game with it and that was quite fun. We had about 5 models left on the board each. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you did. Leave any comments down below. Head over to Twitter if you want to talk to me there. I also share a lot of stuff regarding news and rumours, which I then use in the news and rumours videos. But not everything gets into my news and rumours, and it also includes some tactic articles and everything else. So be sure to head over to Tactica Imperial on Twitter and check me out there. Subscribe if you have not. It helps the channel to grow, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for anyone who already has, and if you haven't, you know where the subscribe button is. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael, and I will see you again.